After a long day at work, Surgeon Dennis was heading home, still lost in thoughts about a tough case. Along the way, a girl offered him a drawing she had made. Dennis bought the drawing from the girl without ever imagining that it would hold the answer to the doubt that was tormenting him. Dr. Dennis was a remarkable man, not only as a renowned cardiologist, but also for his incredible journey in medicine. Unlike many young people who pursue careers influenced by their parents or close relatives, Dennis' choice of medicine was a flame ignited within his heart from an early age, guided by his own curiosity and restlessness. Born into a home unusual by traditional medical standards, his parents were artists with creative souls. His mother was a talented painter, and his father a skilled craftsman who produced beautiful ceramic works. The environment in which Dennis grew up was a true sanctuary of informality and spontaneity, typical of artists. It contrasted vividly with the world of medicine, where strict procedures and protocols dictated the path. From an early age, Dennis was exposed to the splendor of colors in brushstrokes and the unique shapes that came to life under his father's skillful touch. The sound of laughter and the scent of paint permeated his childhood, shaping an artistic atmosphere that inspired him to see the world differently and seek beauty where many dared not even look. Still in school, Dennis had his first encounter with the mysteries of the human body, especially the intricate workings of the heart. Fascinated by every detail, the boy quickly fell in love with the magic contained within the chest of every living being. For him, heartbeats represented more than simple mechanical movements. They were symphonies of existence, unique melodies revealing the presence of something greater and inexplicable. On his birthday that year, Dennis received a gift that further accelerated his passion for medicine, a stethoscope. That small medical instrument became his most precious treasure. Wherever Dennis went, his stethoscope accompanied him. He kept it lovingly around his neck or carefully stored in his backpack, ready to be used at any moment. Dennis began using his stethoscope to listen to the heartbeats of the people around him. No one escaped being examined by the young medical prodigy. His family, friends, teachers, and even the pets that crossed his path were gently subjected to cardiac listening by the aspiring young doctor. His fascination with listening to heartbeats knew no bounds. At night, when silence reigned, he would lie on his bed, holding the stethoscope close to his heart, attentively listening to his own beats. The time to enter medical school finally arrived, and for Dennis, this was the natural step in his journey toward the dream he had nurtured since childhood. The path was clear. Medicine, and more specifically, cardiology, would be his specialty. Soon after graduating, Dr. Dennis began his professional career as a cardiologist. Amid consultations and surgeries, his talent and skill stood out prominently. Dr. Dennis was recognized not only for his medical competence, but also for his compassionate and empathetic nature. He won hearts with his natural empathy and soothing calmness. Patients felt embraced in his presence, and his reassuring words created an atmosphere of hope and trust amidst the uncertainties of illness. It was this reputation that drew young Lauren and her son Jean to his office. Lauren had heard about the cardiologist through other patients who testified to the exceptional care he provided. Her son Jean carried a heavy burden, a congenital heart condition that required specialized attention and treatment. Lauren's life had been an emotional roller coaster since Jean was born. Her son's heart condition was a major challenge, and the constant threat of losing him haunted her daily. Each beat of Jean's heart brought both hope and apprehension to Lauren's heart. Since his birth, Lauren had dreamed of offering her son a life without limitations, where he could run, jump, and play sports like other children. She envisioned a future filled with smiles and joy, where the adversities imposed by Jean's heart condition would be overcome. However, reality was different. At 6 years old, Jean still faced numerous restrictions, and his heart condition was progressing, making the future even more uncertain. As Lauren anxiously waited her turn to see Dr. Dennis in the waiting room, she knew this was her last resort. The journey to seek help for her son had been arduous, with many other doctors refusing to perform Jean's surgery due to its complexity and the risks involved. When they entered the office, Lauren and Jean were greeted with a warm smile from Dr. Dennis. His welcoming presence brought some relief to Lauren's anxious heart. Carefully, she handed the doctor all of Jean's tests and medical history, eagerly awaiting his evaluation. As Dr. Dennis examined the tests, his expression began to change. Gradually, his eyes revealed concern and sadness at the information the results unveiled. Jean's condition was more complex and urgent than he had imagined. Lauren was already familiar with that expression in a doctor's eyes. She had seen it before in those who refused to operate on Jean. With a trembling voice, Lauren made an emotional plea. "Please, Dr. Dennis, operate on my son. You are our last option." No other doctor wanted to take the risk of operating on Jean, but he needs you. And so do I. Dr. Dennis, accustomed to studying the complexity of the human heart's functioning in other patients, now felt his own heart breaking at the plea of that distressed mother. He knew Jun's condition was delicate, and that the surgery was a huge and risky challenge. Dr. Dennis agreed to study Jun's case more deeply and promised to give a response in a few days regarding the possibility of performing the surgery. Lauren felt a mix of hope and gratitude, knowing that at least the doctor was willing to carefully analyze her son's situation. As mother and son prepared to leave the office, Jun surprised everyone by taking a drawing out of his pocket. It was a folded sheet of paper, and he had drawn it himself. "A gift for you, Dr. Dennis," the boy said, handing the drawing to the doctor with a shy smile. The doctor took the drawing gently and observed every detail. It was a simple and colorful illustration representing a landscape with mountains, trees, the sun, and clouds. But something caught his attention in a special way. A bird drawn with surprising perfection and impressive details that stood out from the rest of the drawing. The day continued with Dr. Dennis immersed in his analysis of Jun's tests, seeking approaches that could offer a chance of success in the surgery. However, all alternatives seemed filled with risks and challenges that could compromise the health of the young patient. In a moment of deep reflection, Dr. Dennis closed his eyes, seeking a connection with something beyond his own medical ability. He believed that his talent was not just a coincidence, but had a greater purpose, something that transcended his human capabilities. In an act of faith and humility, Dr. Dennis offered a silent prayer. "God, I ask you for a sign, so that I can be sure whether I should accept to perform Jun's surgery." Dr. Dennis acknowledged that medicine had its limits, and that some questions went beyond scientific knowledge. In moments like these, he sought support in his faith, believing that a higher power could offer him the sign he needed to make such an important decision. Dr. Dennis had no idea that his request for a sign would be answered in such an unexpected and immediate way. In the late afternoon, as he walked back home, he was still immersed in thoughts about Jun's case, trying to find a solution for the complex surgery. That's when a girl, seemingly a street dweller, approached him with a sweet and polite voice. She held a drawing in her hands and timidly asked, "Sir, could you buy the drawing I made?" Impulsively, and driven by a feeling he couldn't explain, Dr. Dennis took out some bills from his wallet and handed them to the girl. In return, she gave him a folded sheet of paper with the drawing. The doctor continued walking, and only when he had a moment to look at the drawing, he was paralyzed. It was a drawing of a bird, the exact same bird from Jun's earlier drawing. The bird, with its impressive details that uniquely stood out in Jun's childish artwork, was faithfully portrayed in the drawing he had just bought from the unknown girl. Dr. Dennis looked back, but realized the girl had disappeared. A chill ran down his spine because this situation couldn't be just a coincidence. It was the sign he had asked for, something that transcended rational understanding and deeply touched his soul. A sense of peace and certainty washed over him, and he knew he was on the right path. The next day, he asked his secretary to contact Lauren and inform her that Jun's surgery would be scheduled for the following week. Lauren received the news with joy and excitement, even while aware of the risks. There was a renewed hope for June. The week leading up to the surgery passed quickly, and finally, the long-awaited day arrived. Jun lay on a hospital bed, ready for surgery, and Lauren was by his side, offering all the support and love she could. Dr. Dennis entered the room, also prepared for the procedure, and his presence brought a sense of tranquility to the family. The doctor was optimistic, sharing comforting words with Lauren and June as they talked. Something unexpected and magical happened. A bird landed on the windowsill of the room. It was a bird very similar to those depicted in the drawing that had so profoundly impacted Dr. Dennis. The bird seemed to be there as if bringing a message of hope and comfort, a final confirmation that everything would be okay. The hours in the waiting room felt endless for Lauren. Every passing minute was a mix of hope and apprehension as she waited for news about Jun's surgery. Her heart raced, her hands trembled, and she sought strength in her prayers. Finally, Dr. Dennis appeared in the waiting room, his smile lighting up the space. Lauren immediately noticed the satisfied expression on the doctor's face, and her heart leaped. Even before he spoke, she knew the surgery had been successful. "Dr. Dennis, how is he?" Lauren asked eagerly, barely able to contain the emotion in her voice. The doctor nodded, still smiling. "The surgery was a success, Lauren. Jun is doing well and will be transferred to the treatment unit where he will complete his recovery." Tears of relief and happiness welled up in Lauren's eyes. She hugged Dr. Dennis with gratitude, feeling a tremendous weight lifted off her shoulders. "Thank you, Dr. Dennis. Thank you for everything," Lauren said, her voice choked with tears still streaming down her face. Returning to his office after Jun's surgery, Dr. Dennis couldn't contain the overflowing emotion in his heart. The experience had touched his soul deeply, and he felt his faith strengthened and renewed. Days like this reminded him of the beauty of his profession and the privilege of being an instrument of happiness and comfort for the people he encountered. With the experience he lived alongside Jun and Lauren, Dr. Dennis was certain there is something beyond what we can see with our physical eyes. He realized that faith can guide us to unexpected places and help us in moments of doubt and uncertainty.